Hey, how you doing today? You looking for a hand or that kind of a hand? No? Well, in response to a video I shot a long time ago, I still have people that ask me about my layering system and wish I would talk a little bit more about that. So, I'm going to talk about my gloves today. I have several different pair of gloves that I wear depending on how cold it is, the season it is. And so I'm going to go into each and every one of those here, help you out today if you're selecting the glove. Now, like I say all the time, everything's a preference and everything fits your needs, suits your abilities, whatever have you. This is just over trial and error of the 12 years that I've been riding here. The gloves that I've settled on that work great for me, depending on the temperatures. So, what I want to do is just kind of go over those, and I'm going to start with, here, I'll show you all my pairs of gloves that I use. So, those are my gauntlet gloves. The backs of them are very, very thick. But the fronts, they're a little bit thinner and a little bit easier for the bite controls. But the backs are very thick to block that wind. And I have the short ones, and I'll show you with my coat why I have the shorter ones instead of the ones that go over your forearm. Okay, so getting back to why I wear the gauntlet gloves with a shorter wrist size as far as the length instead of up to the forearm ones that go over your jacket is because I have found this jacket. It's a polyester jacket. It's has a liner. Take that out, put it back in when it's colder. And depending on the season and depending on the temperature, and over the 12 years that I've been riding, by trial and error, believe me, I've found what coats. I still have some leather coats. I still wear them once in a while. But I found this one is kind of a full length coat to be one of the best coats that I found for the money. I don't even think it was probably about $300. It's been a few years ago since COVID. Everything I know has doubled, so who knows? Well, maybe not doubled, but anyway. So back to my gauntlet gloves. They're thick on the back, but they're still nimble enough on the inside. The heated grips keep the insides warm. The backs of these absorb a lot of the wind and the cold. I said a lot, not all. For the most part, they have, and a lot of times I haven't even needed my heated grips wearing these. But I said for the most part, because if you watched any of my previous videos, I did a ride at 15 degrees. When I left home, it was 8 degrees, and my fingertips started to get cold. So by the time my heated grips came on, boy, I was holding on tight to my grips, warming up my hands. And anyway, and especially my left hand, my second finger, my middle finger, I had a crush injury to it many years ago. It has healed. It's healed. And for, I would say, 5-6 years after I crushed it, that fingertip would hurt in the cold when I was riding. So I got these thick gauntlet gloves, and for the most part, they have helped. 8 degrees, 15 degrees, I don't know if there's too much that helps other than maybe heated gear. So if I'm gonna ride much more in that type of temperatures, maybe I need to look into that. But anyway, so long story short, my gauntlet gloves here, long story long, I guess. My gauntlet gloves, I got them so the length stops at the wrist because my coat cuff here has Velcro. So these gloves have 2 Velcro strips on them. I pull the Velcro on my coat. I get the Velcro strips fastened down. I don't know if you can see that. Get the Velcro on it. Pull the coat down. Hold it tight and just Velcro it. So, and like I said, when I first got them, I really had to break them in to see if I could be nimble enough with them with my fingertips, but they ended up working very well for me, and I've had them quite a while now, and they're just a Harley Davidson brand. I kind of got a brown leather and black to them, but they're a nice pair of gloves. And you know, Harley Davidson, I think I got them on sale. It was just about summer, and they were wanting to get rid of them, and consequently, they were only like $100, $112, something like that. So, and yeah, okay. So based on the temperature, I have different set of riding gloves for each one. And like I said, my right here, I usually wear those when it's probably in the 40s, you know, maybe low 50s, and anything less than 40 degrees, which foolish, I know, but I did it. So I wear those, like I said, and it depends on the temperature, depends on the humidity, dew point. You kind of, as a motorcycle rider, become a meteorologist too, because based on all those factors, I have got a system in which I have different pair of gloves for each situation, depending on the temperature, the wind, all that good stuff. So, but then here's the first pair of gloves that I've ever bought. These are about 12 years old now. They're a leather glove. They're kind of they're not thick. I'd say they're kind of a mid, but they have done and treated me well for a long time. They're probably about wore out. I probably should change those out, but for me, if I find something that works good for me, I'll wear it till there's probably a hole in it or so. So I just hate to change something out that seems to be working well for me. And I wear these, you know, anywhere from the low 50s up until about 60 degrees, maybe low 60s if it's an early morning, you know, and I'm just starting out. I always overdress rather than underdress. I always feel you can either take something off, but once you get cold, it seems like you can never warm back up, or it takes a long time to warm back up. So these are my, like I said, my mid 50s to probably mid 60s pair of gloves. And then we go from there, and I've come across some work gloves that I used to use, and I bought another set just for riding purposes, and they're just Caymans. Mag 2970 is what this brand is, and I had another pair, and I wore those out in about 5 years. So, and I wear these probably when it's about anywhere in the 60 degree range, where, you know, maybe it's the middle of the day, but it's still a little cool, maybe spring, maybe fall, early summer, late summer. So, and still 60 degrees out.
and they're still nimble enough. For the most part, I can use the fingertips for my phone, or because back in the day, that was my navigation, was on my phone. And back to these, I could use these as well, as it has the fingertip for electronic devices. So, but these are my Caymans, and they're my 60-degree glove. Then we step over, and in the middle of the summer, I found these. These are just Under Armours, and they fit tight. And I would just say, like, middle of the summer, and it's a little cool out first thing in the morning. And they also have the fingertip for electronic devices where you can touch screen and all that good jazz. And I've almost lost these. I think my wife and my daughters, both my daughters, were cold, and I sometimes just put those in my regular jacket, and they had cold hands, and I gave them to them, and I had a hard time getting them back. Matter of fact, I had to pull the hair off of them. One of my daughters has long blonde hair, so when she wore them. So anyway, those are my probably middle of the summer type gloves, and some, like I said, I wear them, throw them in my jacket, and just wear them like if I'm getting ready to head out and it's a cool morning. So, and then my last pair of gloves, you're gonna laugh. You're gonna laugh, but they work. They do work, and when it's raining out, I have my rain gear, and I put that on, but I was thinking to myself, all the gloves that I wore, I used to use my Caymans when it was raining, but when they get wet, you can kind of see they've taken a beating since I've wore them in the rain and all that good jazz, and maybe even had my my heated bars on, my grips on. You can see the black on them. But anyway, back to my rain gloves. Yes, and they're called cutters, and they are wide receiver gloves. They're football gloves. And when they get wet, they get tacky, and it secures your grip. Just like catching a football, I guess. But my grips, as soon as these things get wet, in the insides of them, on the palms, on the fingertips, they get very, very tacky. So, and you can feel it on your grips that your hand just sticks to it. So, and it seems to work well for me. I have used them. I bet these are almost 5 years old now, and I used them quite a bit. So there are my 5 different types of gloves that I use when I'm riding. My gauntlets for when it's really cold, and for me, that's probably 50s, 40s, anything less. And my mid leather gloves I use for riding when it's probably upper 50s, lower 60s, early in the mornings, stuff like that, because I do ride my bike to work for commute. And then I would say my Caymans are 60 degrees, early mornings, in the middle of the summer, as well as my Under Armours. I wear them too when it's really warm out, but kind of a cool, crisp morning. And then obviously my cutters, my football wide receiver gloves are very tacky. I use those in the rain. So, and like I was saying, everybody's different. And I have a buddy of mine that when it's 60 degrees out, and I probably either have my Caymans on, or if it's low 60s early in the morning, I may have my mid right there. So, and he won't. His hands are fine, And that guy, I'll probably have a hoodie on, and he's probably got cut off sleeves in 60 degrees. So to each his own. Everybody, and that's the whole thing, trial and error when you're riding a motorcycle. What works best for you? You know, you listen to other people's advice, and then by trial and error, you figure out what's best for you. And like I said, I've always found it's best to overdress and be a little warm and be able to take something off. And a lot of times these gloves, I'll have 2 or 3 of these pair in my bike at the same time, and always have my waterproof gloves with my bike at all times. So that way I can just change out. Like I get going down the road, and inevitably somebody's always got to stop to get fuel, gas, or forgot to take a leak, and we got to stop and do that, 10 miles down the road or something. If I'm hot, I'll just change out my gloves, and I do that with my jackets, everything. And so I will go over each and every one of those with you, and try to help anybody out. Like I said, I still have people watch that old video. Yeah, well, it's just like 8 months ago, 6 months ago. I talked about layering up, and I still have people watching that and commenting and asking me to dive a little deeper into each layering system. So I'm attempting to do that, and I hope I can help you out, because it is spring. Well, not quite yet. It's March, and riding season in the Midwest, upper Midwest, is right around the corner. Matter of fact, it's going to be 60 something today, and you better believe I'm going to get a few miles in today. So maybe I'll get some video on that too. So thanks for listening to me jabber, and I hope I help somebody out there. But like I said, it's all trial and error, and it's all up to you. So have a great day, and I'll see you next time.